Welcome to the Superbuck. Now I want to open this by saying the OEM enhancements I have made is not tricking out the gun. There are fundamentalists out there who think that you make any changes to your gun that's somehow tricking it out and they get upset. Alright, OEM means parts from Daisy. And putting on a metal lever and a fiber sight is not tricking out your gun. It's just getting parts from Daisy I prefer. Spraying foam in the barrel, getting third-party parts, aftermarket parts from people whose parts may or may not work. That's tricking it out, and that's something different. So also, Daisy has a museum, and you can get special Red Ryders from there. They're very expensive, very nice, by the way. And yeah, you don't want to mess with that at all. Leave that alone. But mass-produced guns from China, you can afford to make some changes. OEM parts from Daisy. All right, now let's get into this now. A Superbuck starts where? Where does a Superbuck start? It starts by getting rid of this Toys R Us stock. Now we're going to talk about the LOP. The LOP is length of pull, and that means from the trigger to the back of the stock. And you see what's on there. You recognize that. It's probably surprised some people. But the LOP for the Red Ryder stock is about almost 14 inches. It's almost 14 inches. All right, it's close, not quite, but almost 14 inches. And that is a huge difference in pull, we'll say for short, compared to 11. Okay, it was just painful. I couldn't deal with it anymore. We'll get into the deficiencies of the 105 in the next video in part 2, where we cover from the front sight forward and talk about comparisons with Big Brother right over here. But the emphasis of this video will be from the back sight back. All right, and so the Superbuck, literally its best meaning is a Red Ryder stock and metal lever. So let's talk a little bit about the metal lever that I haven't really talked about before. Some people think it's made out of aluminum. Well, it's really heavy if it'd be made out of aluminum. I'm just going to tell you that much. So whatever it's made out of adds nice weight to the gun. And on top of the fact of stabilizing it, which I really like, and having more metal on the gun instead of a piece of plastic, it's basically your buddy. When you cock this thing all the way up, it flies down. It almost talks to you and says, hey, let me help out. And the metal lever flies down and really locks up nicely on that lock point. It basically does the work for you, and it makes it really enjoyable to shoot. So that I really appreciate about this. So, all right, so now let's take a look at some of the things about the metal lever. Now, one of the problems I hit on putting a metal lever on this buck and the Red Ryder is that screw right there. And what happened, I caught it coming loose a few times, and when I was putting this metal one on my buck here, I really caught it coming loose on my Red Ryder. So what I did is put Loctite. I put Loctite right there, and we'll get into that. Let's go ahead and take a look at what product I like. I like the Permatex gel. There's other Loctite products, but they tend to run, and they run out the threads and run all over your gun. The gel sticks to the threads, and I really like working with it. Also, because we want to make sure to do this right, I noticed part of the reason I use Loctite is I just kept tightening that nut, and I noticed I was starting to wear on the paint, and you don't want to do that. And especially say you have a collector's edition, one from the Daisy Museum, but maybe you find the nut there coming loose, you want to be careful with this. You do want to put Loctite on it. Neither of these guns have had that nut come loose. And use a socket head, and you get on there, just do it by hand. Just do it by hand, and just do that until it's snug. And let the Loctite do its work. You leave it alone for a day or two. And neither this nor Big Bro have come loose there again. So I'm very happy with that. And I really like that gelatin Loctite. Okay, so basically that's that. I just can't tell you how much it improves the gun to have a 14-inch LOP or a 14-inch pull from the back of the stock to the trigger. It's so much nicer to shoot. And again, so if I want to make clear that someone asks in comments, is it super performance? No, but it makes me want to shoot the gun again. And as a carbine standing at 10 or 12 yards, which is its sweet spot, it does a good job kicking cans around. It's not as accurate as Big Brother here. It's just not. And we'll get into that coming up in the next section. But I like it. I like it better. So if you're a buck owner, don't feel bad or I'm saying to get rid of it. It's just that I just couldn't stand it the way it is. The Toys R Us stock was just too much. It was uncomfortable, along with some of the other, honestly, engineering deficiencies I found in the buck. I couldn't deal with it, but I like it now. And it's a good standing carbine or short rifle to kick around cans with. Surprisingly fun and surprisingly accurate in its sweet spot. Whereas the Red Ryder can definitely go 15 yards, and I've gotten crazy accuracy out of that. We'll get into that. But okay, so now let's finish up talking about the Ballistol. So I've been wiping down the woodwork with the Ballistol, and I want to make it clear that stuff is no joke. Now on this, it's got a nice shine on it, pretty decent. It seems like the wood's a little bit different than on my Red Ryder. Also, to be fair, I've used my Red Ryder more, but this is putting on a nice shine. But check out this Red Ryder. Okay, so putting repeated Ballistol treatments on. Look at the shine on that, and that actually is doing something, just not being pretty. And what I did one time when I saw it really starting to take, I hosed it down with Ballistol, waited a few seconds, and took a rag and just lightly took it off so it left a wet look, and then I left it alone for 2 days, if you can manage that. And that really did some nice things to it. Okay, then look at the forearm. That's nice and shiny. It's not wet. That's how it is. So it's well protected. All right, now look at this side. Now that is beautiful. Look at that. Look at the shine and how it's soaked into the wood. So it protects it against the salts and oils in your hand and sun damage, just not water damage. So anyway, that I think has turned out really well. So I was happy the Ballistol did that well to protect the woodwork. So it's definitely worth using. All right, so on part 2, we'll get more into the head-to-head comparison with Big Brother, the Red Ryder. I would just say to dads out there, if you have not bought your kid or daughter or son a gun, I don't care if they're 3 feet tall. I don't care if they're a dwarf, you think, if they're not going to grow anymore. If you give them a buck, and they're shooting against friends with Red Ryders, they will start to get outshot, especially as their Red Ryders break in. It's just a better platform, and you want your kid to be able to really feel good and get their maximum marksmanship. And the buck against the Red Ryder has a barrel that is 11 inches overall and is 3 inches longer than the buck. And when no rifling is involved, that makes a huge difference. I can tell you that. I've seen that. All right, I have 1,000 shots through this buck already. I've been heavily pushing and testing it. And I do like it now that it's a super buck. And it's because I took it from the rear sight back and made it into a Red Ryder, because it can do that. So that I'm happy with it, and it's good, you know. It's good for what it is, but not as good as a Red Ryder. So dads, if you think you're being smart, save yourself $5 when you go to Walmart, which is Daisy Central, $20 or $25. Get the Red Ryder for your kid. You'll be glad you did, and they'll grow into it. So anyway, so I'm happy with my buck now that I lost this Toys R Us stock. And in part 2, we'll get more into the in-depth comparison between the buck and Big Bro.